Okay, it's right at 11 o'clock and let's go ahead and get started. Good morning, everyone. If you do not know me, if we haven't met, my name is Alexis LaSalle, and I'm going to be taking you through the Remine Docs Plus program this morning. As you know, today is the big day. It's October 27th, and that means that as of this day, in rDocs, you can only view your previous transactions. You will not be able to create any new tiles at this point. And so at this point going forward, if you're going to be creating contracts, writing offers, putting together listing paperwork, you're going to be doing it in Remine. I am asking people to keep themselves muted. I have muted everyone, but I will give an opportunity to ask questions at the end. So I'm going to go ahead and I am going to share my screen with everyone. And again, this is the Remine 101. So I'm going to take you through the basics of how to get started, how to get set up, how to put your information in so that your signature and your initials are available, where to put your NRDS number. If you have never logged in before, and if this is your first time getting into Remine, it is very helpful if you have your NRDS number available, because that way you can go ahead and you can put it in on the screen as I walk through the instructions. If you don't have it today, that's fine, just follow along. This session is going to be recorded, and so you'll have an opportunity to review it and put it in at another time. Okay. So Remine is essentially a suite of tools that is, it's a software suite, and you can use it to manage documents, retrieve documents, you can create documents for files. There are also quite a few other functions that are available in Remine, but today I'm going to be focusing solely on the Docs Plus program. I really want to make sure that everyone is able to get themselves up and running, to create documents, to write contracts. We will have other courses and other sessions and even other short videos on specific questions that people post to me or other functions that you can use in Remine. But for today, I really just want people to be able to get in and get started. Before I take you into Remine, you'll notice that I'm here on the FMLS homepage. There are lots of opportunities for continuing education on Remine, and I want to show you those first. Firstly, available to everyone on the homepage, you'll see that their first item in their newsfeed is a link to find classes on Remine. You can earn additional CE credit, you can learn more of the functions of it, and you can even just sort of continue to reinforce the basics with yourself. Here on the main page, they have a big banner. rDocs is retiring, please read, and this link right here will enable you to find a class. If you are the kind of person that just wants to learn on your own and answer questions as they come up, I want you to go here into this support tab, and there's an option in here that says knowledge base, and if you click on the knowledge base, you can learn about all of the products that are contained in the FMLS product suite. And Remine has quite a few resources with it. And I'm just going to scroll down here to sort of show you some of the things that you're going to be able to look at and learn. They have a frequently asked questions section. They have a whole section that is devoted entirely just to Docs Plus, including just getting started, how to navigate your dashboard, what the setting preferences are, and how to change those preferences and to make sure that they're set up so that you can utilize the GAR forms. There's also here at the bottom 3 PDFs that I want to call your attention to. One is a Remine Quick Start Guide. It is what it is. It's a nice information piece that if you just click on, it's going to open up into a new tab. And you'll see that it has quite a bit of information on how to get started. Again, I am specifically speaking to people who have not really utilized Remine very much, maybe only taken a class, maybe got in and played around a little bit. If you're at a point now where you've been utilizing Remine, you're used to the interface and you're ready to take it a step further, there are lots of classes that you can take. And Sandy Ziegler and I are actually going to be co-hosting probably a Remine 102 that's going to talk about some of the additional features that are going to take you from a novice to a pro. Because there are lots of cool things that you can do with Remine. But again, for today, I want to show you how to utilize Docs Plus and how to get your transactions into Remine. But there's a lot of good information in here. And again, I just wanted to sort of call your attention to it. This Remine Docs Plus course guide is a very comprehensive study guide. This is essentially the study guide that goes along with the CE course that is offered. And it has a lot of great user information, how to use smart forms, how to understand the roles within Remine, how to write and create and manage signatures, the differences between the signing sessions as they appeared in rDocs and the signing sessions in Remine. In rDocs previously, you would have seen a COA at the end of your signature sessions, basically a certificate of authenticity. In Remine, you're going to have what they're calling authenticity, I believe, yeah. So if you are using, the best platform to use Remine with is Chrome. If you're a Mac user or if you're using Safari, it is very critical that in order for the program to function correctly, that you disable your pop-ups. And go ahead and disable your pop-up blocker now for Remine in either Safari or if you're using a Mac. Let's see. I'm going to go ahead and get into it. So to access Remine, you're going to go to your product screen and roll over and just click on Remine, and it'll redirect you to your Remine homepage. Your Remine homepage contains all of the tool suites that are available within Remine. But again, we're specifically going to be talking about the Docs Plus portion of Remine today. There are two ways that you can get right into Docs Plus. Right now, they have also created a short link on the main page here on the left-hand side. You can see where my mouse is hovering. You can get right into Docs Plus using this, or you can go to what they are calling at FMLS the Rubik's Cube menu, which I think is pretty cute, and click on it, and then you have another way to get right into Docs Plus. So let's get into Docs Plus. And the first thing that I want to show you is how to set yourself up so that you have your signatures and your initials and your NRDS already loaded in so that you'll be able to utilize all the forms and all the functionality of Docs Plus. So over here on the left-hand side, you'll see that there is a Settings tab, and if you click on it, it opens up a screen where you can preload all of your personal information. There's a signatures and initial link here. This has already been completed. You'll notice that I'm impersonating one of our agents. She said it was okay. If you click on this button that says Edit, you can create your signature, and you want to go ahead and do that at the beginning. There are two options. You can draw your signature or you can type your signature in. If you choose to draw your signature, you're going to get a draw box and you can mouse over it, or if you're using an iPad, that's sometimes a little bit easier than trying to draw it with your mouse, which is a little clunky. Same with your initials. And then you want to make sure that you select this box. Or you can elect to use the type signature feature. When you type your signature in, you're just going to type into this box. And then you'll also be able to select the font that you feel most represents your signature, and the same for your initials. Once again, you want to click this box just to signify that you're acknowledging that this electronic signature is going to have the same force and effect as any written signature or initials. Okay. So the other thing that you want to do that's very important in here is you want to make sure that you put in your signing email address. This is the email address that is going to officially be the address that you're going to get notifications with, and it's also the email address that you're going to receive any signing requests with. You'll notice on your screen that there's a place here where you can enter your NRDS number. This is really critical. In order for you to be able to use the GAR forms that are available in Remine, you have to put in your NRDS number, or if you are not a realtor, and I don't think that anyone on this call qualifies in that way, then you can also purchase an FPID number, but all of you should have an NRDS number. So you want to put your NRDS number, and that is going to enable you to have access to the GAR forms. You also want to make sure that you're putting in your realtor membership, whether you're with AAR or the COB board, and you can do that by clicking on this link here, and then you'll be able to enter that information. There are a couple of items at the bottom that are preferences. There are some items that they already have automatically selected. The first is that a document is you're going to get notified when a document has been shared with you. And the second is a summary of a signed session. And that means that once a signing session is completed, then you're going to get notified via email that the signature session is complete. You can also elect in the third box, if you want to check it, to be notified when a recipient has opened your documents. That can be handy, especially if you're working with someone who may not be familiar with utilizing electronic signatures or viewing documents online. This can kind of help you to know where they are in the process and know that they've seen them and know that they've received them. There are smart alert preferences. You can elect to turn that on or off. The smart alert preferences essentially is going to show you when your document is incomplete. If you have started a signing session for a document, but there are items on the contract that have not been filled in, maybe there's a blank that you've left uncompleted, before your signing session will go, you're going to get a little pop-up box that's going to show you little exclamation points inside little yellow triangles. Some of these things are optional, but they are recommended. And then you may see a triangle that has a red, an exclamation point that has a red triangle around it. Those are things that are required and really need to be filled in, like you forgot the address, or you forgot the price, or you really should put in the binding agreement or the due diligence date. There's a lot of information that they're sort of spot checking for you. So it's a good idea to turn those on because it's a great double check for you. Before you send something off, you're going to be able to see, oh, I missed this blank, or I missed this. You can also elect to utilize the client communication, where you send your clients an invitation for them to join Remine through their own customer portal, and it allows your clients to engage with you and log in, have their own portal, and especially if you have someone who's very tech savvy and they want to be able to be, you know, looking at the documents in real time, this is a very handy function to have turned on. I just want to see if anyone has any questions so far. I'm going to take a little glance here and see. I've got a question from Pam. Where do we access these guides again? Pam, I'm going to take you back to the main screen. So I'm on the main FMLS screen. Just when you log into FMLS, before you elect to go into any of the products, you're here on the main screen and you have these tabs at the top. You can find guides under the support tab. You click on support tab and then go to knowledge base, and you click on the knowledge base. It's going to open up a whole screen of additional information about all of the products that FMLS offers, including Remine. Once you're inside knowledge base, you're going to click on Remine, and this is where all of those guides are available. Down at the bottom are the 3 PDFs that I spoke about earlier: the Quick Start Guide, the Docs Plus course guide, which is specifically about the program that you're going to use to be writing contracts. And then there's also an Add Edit guide, which is very handy to review as well. This Docs Plus course guide is actually the course guide that they use for the 3-hour CE class, so it's very comprehensive. So I'm going to go back into Remine. And I'm going to have to move this around just slightly because I've got some ghost boxes on the screen that not everybody can see. Okay, so once we have set up our account preferences, I'm going to take you back to the main Remine dashboard, and I'm going to show you. Oh, Vida also has a question.
Hey, Alexis, you just mentioned that we can select the option so that the client can look at the forms. If we select that in our preferences, will it automatically let them know? Or like, I want to allow that as a preference. I don't want to turn it off and on for each one, but I also don't necessarily want them accessing the forms unless I let them know or tell them to do it.
I think if you turn it on, then they always have that as an option. So what we might want to do would be to see if there is a way that we can, and I'll follow up with Remine. I'll make a little note to myself to find out, is there a way that we can do this for some clients, but not for all?
Thank you.
Okay, sure. Okay, so once you're on your main Docs Plus dashboard, you're going to see on the left-hand side that you can create a transaction, and on the right-hand side you can upload a file. If you are beginning to write an offer, you're beginning to work with a buyer, or you're beginning to prepare listing paperwork, you pretty much want to go through and you want to create a transaction. If you already have a transaction created and you just want to upload paperwork to it, you can use this upload a file function. But for the most part, you're going to be utilizing the create a transaction. You can also go over here to the left-hand side and you can see any transactions that you've already created. On the main dashboard as well, you're going to get a short list here that's going to begin to accumulate of your most recent documents. These are not subdivided by address or by transaction. They're just simply the last couple that you have created. You will be able to see what transaction they are affiliated with, but if you are working on several different transactions at once, you may see things from different transactions. This is essentially just the last documents that you've been working with. But you can get into your transaction and access the document quickly if you want to use this sort of like quick grab screen that shows your last edits. So you can create a new transaction from several screens. You can create a new transaction from the My Transaction screen or from your main dashboard. You can also create a new transaction from the main Remine dashboard by utilizing one of the map features. That's more advanced, so we're going to cover that in the 102 class, but I just wanted to kind of touch on that. For instance, if you have a new listing here that you access, you can open it up and look at it. You know you want to write an offer on this. Right in here at the bottom of this left-hand screen. Let's see if it'll scroll down for me. Let's see if I can get to it. You can create a listing for this file or create a transaction for this file, which is pretty cool. But again, that's going to be part of our next session. Just wanted to kind of give you a little taste of that. So I'm going to go back in here to Docs Plus. Every time you click on that Docs Plus, it's going to open up a new tab. So if you just want to go back to the previous tab that you were at, you can always just access the tabs up here at the top. So in this screen, when you go to create a transaction, you're going to be selecting from the beginning which side you're going to be working with, whether you're on the buying side as the selling agent or the listing side working with the seller. If you're working with the seller and you already have a property address, your transaction name is going to be your property address. If you already have an FMLS number that's associated with a transaction that you're going to be bringing a buyer to, then you can put in the FMLS number and it's going to fill this information in on your behalf. You want to make sure that you complete all of this and put in the full legal name of the sellers and the buyers, because this is going to translate over when you're going to be sending out signatures. So once you've created a transaction, and I'm just going to look at one of the transactions that I've already created. I'm going to go into this test listing. I'm going to walk you through some of these tabs that you're going to see at the top, and I'm going to show you how you're going to add new documents and how you're going to send them out for signatures. Also want to call attention to this little button over here on the right-hand side that says Legacy. If you click on Legacy, the Legacy tab is essentially all of your rDocs completed and signed and ratified binding documents that have ever occurred, and they're going to appear here in this tab. So for instance, if you have already done something in rDocs with a client, maybe you worked with them as a seller and now they're going to buy something. And when they were a seller, you went ahead and you made a buyer brokerage agreement up for them. You can use this Legacy button, and I want to go back one level and just show you that again and show you where it is because it's kind of small. There's a little itty bitty tiny thing over here on the right-hand side that says Legacy. So if you want to try to see if you can find a piece of paperwork or a document that you utilized with a client who you're now going to be working with again in Remine, you can open up this Legacy screen and then you can search for it. And you'll notice that you can search by the address, which is here. You can use this filter function to find it. You can do a search for the address. If you know the FMLS number, you can search by FMLS. And it's also going to show you some information about these previously created files. You'll have a creation date, and they're pulling over as much information as is available. So if there are things that you did not complete, then they're not going to show up here. This can be very handy, especially if you're looking for something that you might want to use again, or you're selling a house for the second time for whatever reason. You want to even just utilize a previous seller's disclosure as a reference. You may be able to get into this Legacy tab and utilize some of those things. That can just be sort of handy. I also want to talk, and I'm going to be doing a short video, and I'm going to post it online. If you have people in rDocs and you would like to capture their contact information, I'm going to do a very quick tutorial on an easy way to organize your clients in rDocs and export them to a CSV spreadsheet so that you have their name and their address, and then you'll be able to upload them into a CRM or utilize their information in whatever way is handy for you. I just want to take a quick look in here and see if we've got any additional chats. Thank you, Pam. Pam has brought something up that is very important. If you are going to be working with a client, it is very helpful if you put your clients in first into your contacts on your main Remine dashboard. If you just put their information into the transaction, it's not going to translate back over into the contacts section. But if you put their information into contacts first, then you can pull their information over when you're writing a contract. And thank you for that. So once you're inside the transaction that you've created, that you're going to be working with, there are a couple of different options here at the top that I just want to go over quickly. Let's see here. Primarily, you're going to want to be adding forms into your Remine transactions. In rDocs, they were tiles. In Remine, they're transactions. So when you're writing up a contract, when you're writing up an offer, and you're going to be looking for forms, you're going to find them in here. Once you've put in your NRDS number, the Georgia Association of Realtors form box is going to be available to you. Prior to that, you may only see the FMLS RE forms. So that's the reason why you want to make sure you put that NRDS number in there. So you can search just by browsing if you know what it is that you're looking for, or you can also type in this search box whatever characters are going to help you to pull that form up. So let's say that I'm looking for the F201, the purchase and sale agreement. I can even just write in the word purchase. It's going to narrow down anything that does not have that word in it, and then you'll be able to browse through. Let's say you're looking for, instance, the DeKalb plumbing disclosure. You can type in DeKalb, press enter, it should come up, there it is. And note that obviously the GAR forms are preceded with the letter F, and the RE forms are RE. So when you're adding forms to your file, if you want to make sure that you're using the GAR forms, just make sure that you're looking for the prefix. If it's for commercial, it's going to be a C. If it's regular, typical residential, retail, real estate forms, they're going to have an F at the beginning. I've noticed that some people have added some of these RE forms just because they read the description, but you want to make sure that you're adding the right forms that you want to use. So just for grins, I'm going to go ahead and add this DeKalb plumbing exhibit. And I have to move my thumb strip around a little bit. There we go. Okay. So once you have selected a form, it's going to go down here into this box called My Selections. You can add multiple forms at once. If you're only looking for one thing, you can add them one at a time. You can always go back and add additional things at a later date. You don't have to add everything at once. For now, we're just going to add the one. Okay. And it's going to show up here into my list of forms. So once you've got a form added in here, let's see. And you open it up, you're going to notice that there's grayed out boxes that you can use just to fill in the information. And if you have already entered in the information for your people on the first screen when you create the transaction, they're all going to show up here. But you always have the option to go up here and to edit your people. You want to make sure that you're correctly representing, or you've correctly selected who you're representing, and then your information should be, it should automatically populate into this space. And I want to go back to my document. Okay. So now that I'm in my form, it's a one-page form. If it was a multiple-page form, you would see that there were multiple pages on the side, and they're going to have a little number next to them to the left. You can toggle through, and I'm going to actually show you that because I want to show you what that looks like. When you look at a multi-page form, you'll see that all the pages are laid out in front of you here, so you can very quickly get to where it is that you're trying to go. You can go right to the signature page if that's what you want to be, if that's where you want to be, and you can also move quickly between the documents inside your transaction just by utilizing this left-hand screen. Once you have everything filled out, well, before we go there, I want to show you a couple of pretty cool little features that are up here that you can utilize that are nice at a glance. You can edit your people using these tabs at the top. You could also, and I think this is very interesting, if you want to just really quickly get in and fill out your contract and not have to scroll through the whole thing, you can utilize this tab at the top that says Fields. Fields is basically a pared down version of your contract. All you're going to see are the blanks that are available to be filled. You can go through here, you can fill in all of these items, and they're going to show up right onto your contract. You can select what it is that is applicable to the transaction, and they'll all be right there. And this is pretty handy. This history tab is going to show you what you have done on this form when you edited it last. You can also go back and look at previous edits if you want to, if for whatever reason you want to see a former version. The audit report here at the top is going to show you the history of what has happened with your document. When you click on it, it's going to show you the table of contents, and then also any signing history that's happened, any offers and counter offers that you've made. And so that can be a very handy tool to use as well. Okay. Let's go back to my dashboard. Okay, here we go. Does anyone have any additional questions at this point? Is there anything that, I'm just kind of glancing at the chat to make sure that everybody is good, and it looks like we're good. Okay. So inside your document, and I apologize, I'm just having to move my little Zoom strip around a little bit so I can see what's behind it. Let's go back to our main document and let's get ourselves ready to do a signature session. If you just want to email this for review, you can hit the send button. You can select the documents that you want to send. And then you're going to basically scroll down here to the bottom. And you can just mail them off when you click continue. And this is what I was talking about in the first screen. I've left quite a few items blank on the form, and because they're blank, I'm going to get these empty fields alerts. This means there are items that have not been completed. The yellow box items are things that might not necessarily be required at the beginning, but these items in red, Remine is telling me these are important, and you got to make sure that you keep these, that these are filled in before you send this off, especially for signatures. And it even's going to say, wait a minute, are you sure you want to continue? You have the following issues, and it identifies all of the blanks that I've not filled in yet. But I do just want to send this off for someone to review. So I'm going to go ahead and click continue. I have a question from Susan Reno. How do you delete or a form or a document? And Pete also asks, how do you add a field to SmartDocs, such as the binding agreement section at the end of a buyer brokerage agreement? Good questions. I'm going to start with Susan. How do you delete a form or a document? So I'm going to go back to my main screen for my transaction here, and there are a number of options here on the side. These three little dots are going to drop down a menu that are going to give you a variety of things that you can utilize with this particular document. And one of them is delete. So I can go ahead and I can just delete that just like that. There are a couple of other items in here that I want to call to your attention. We're going to be utilizing Remine to create your documents and to send off for signatures, but we are still going to be performing broker review in Paperless Pipeline. So even if you are creating documents in Remine, I want to make sure that you're not utilizing this submit tab. We're not going to be submitting through Remine for broker review inside of Remine. When you're complete, when everything is signed and you're ready to send in your forms for broker review, you're going to forward them to documents at around Atlanta. And you can do that just by utilizing this send button. And you can send multiples at a time, or you can send them one at a time. If you have a seller's disclosure and you want it to be published to FMLS, okay? And this is something that I think a lot of people have had challenges with, especially because they're used to doing it in rDocs. Let's just say, for instance, that this is your seller's disclosure. Go back. I'm going to select this blue box right here, and then I'm going to go over to this, and I'm going to look at the MLS visibility tab. This is how you're going to get your seller's disclosures and any other forms or documents that you want to have available to the public onto FMLS for viewing. You're going to click on the MLS visibility, put in your MLS number. So let's say you're the listing agent, you've submitted your listing, it's already in the system, and you're ready to publish your documents. Select your seller's disclosure, go to the side and utilize the little three-dot menu. It's going to drop open this option, and you're going to pick MLS visibility, which is down at the bottom. Put in your MLS number, and then you're going to select the visibility. If you select private, it's only visible to you, and that's the default. Shared is visible to all MLS agents. Public is visible to users with a login to the file. So you want to click on shared, and that's going to share it to the MLS. Let me see if I can go back here. How do you add a field to a SmartDoc, such as the binding agreement section at the end of a buyer brokerage agreement? Okay. So let's say that you want to put in just like you say, we'll go into the buyer brokerage agreement and we will put in the binding date. When you access this signing tab and select the item that you want to sign, let's see. Sorry, give me one moment. You're actually going to do that on this main screen, Pete, and I apologize. So once you select an item on your main transaction dashboard screen, you'll notice that there are a variety of items that open up here on the top. And one of them here, I believe, is where we're going to be able to add different text. Let's see, I've got someone else is chiming in here. I have another question from Christina Bach-Norman. She says, so if our client handwrites a disclosure, we can upload it to the transaction and then make it shared. Yes, that is correct. And then in order for this to, in order for us to add additional text, we're going to convert it to a PDF first. So once you've opened it back up to this screen, you're going to convert to PDF. And then it's going to open up additional tools that you have here where you can add text boxes, you can draw, you can add initials, you can add an additional date. Okay. So let's go back to, let's actually fill something in so that we can start a signing session, because I want to make sure that everyone knows how to do that. Okay, and I like this Fields tab because that's going to enable me to go through it pretty quickly. You can pick out your legal description, same as described above, attached as an exhibit. Let's say our start date is today. When you click on the date, you're going to get a calendar that's going to open up, and you can just select the date and select your end date. And let's just give it, just say the 4th. I really just want to fill in characters here just so that you can see what it looks like when we send for a signing session. Let's see. You can also, if you decide, I'd really actually rather look at the document, toggle back to the document, and you can see that anything that I filled in using that fields function is now already completed. If you're more used to going through and just filling in the boxes as you see them, you certainly can do that. Okay, let's say none of that applies. All right. Go. Okay. All right. As I typed these numbers in, they were automatically formatted. So if you just type in 7 digits for someone's phone number, once all the characters are in, it's going to put the prefix in its own parentheses and add the dash in the middle as well, which is pretty cool. And it does some of the work for you so you can kind of go along pretty quickly. Okay. So let's say we're going to send this. I'm sorry, I want to go back and I want to do the signature. All right, so we've just finished our listing agreement and we're going to go ahead and we're going to send it off. It's going to tell me that there are items that still need to be included, but you can always override that. And I'm going to send it. There are 2 options inside the signing screen. If you have someone there in person with you, you can utilize the Sign Now option, or you can utilize the Send to Sign, which is probably what you're going to be using most of the time, to send an email to your seller to sign. Just checking in with everybody. Okay. You'll get a message screen that is going to pop up. You can personalize the subject line and the message. That's probably a pretty good idea so that people don't think it's spam, and also so that people's inboxes don't think that it's spam. So if you want to make sure that this says the property address, this is 111. And then you can just put in the message of your choosing. You might even want to compose a message that you're going to use all the time and save it to the side, and then you can just cut it and paste it right into here using the Control-V function. So we'll say, hey there. And then you're just going to click on Send. It's going to give you reminders as you go along, because Remine thinks it's a better agent than you are, and that it's very smart. So it's going to say, remember to send any applicable documents to recipients on the other side of the transaction once completed. I do have another option in here. Nancy Torrance asks, why did you have to fill in the email address again? If I had already completed the, put them in as a contact, I believe that that would already have popped in. And once you fill it in, that address, I believe, is going to be associated with that seller. Okay, so I've sent that off for signature. I'm going to go back to the dashboard and I'm going to show you what that looks like at this point. These statuses are going to change automatically based on what you've done. Now you'll see that this says that it is sent. And there are a variety of different statuses here. You can also select, for instance, if something is completed or in progress or submitted. But when it's been sent off for a signature, you're going to see that this has a green button that shows that it's been sent for a signature. So let's see if I got my signature request. It takes a few minutes sometimes for that signature request to go through. So you may just want to be sure to alert your clients to watch for it. It says, why do you send multiple docs to a client to sign? Does it create one email for when you send multiple docs for a client to sign? Yes, it is going to, you're going to be able to, oh, that's another thing that's very important. If you have a situation where you have a client that shares an email address with another person in their family, you have to have one email address per signer. You can't send the same signature request. Can't send a different signature request to the same email. So both will have to have unique email addresses. And Remine is sort of working on a workaround for that at this point, is my understanding. But for now, you will need to have a unique email address for all of your signers. So you may want to advise your clients of that and even have them create something that would just be for use in your transaction. You can have, let's see, got another question in here. Okay, awesome. Just want to check in and see if there are a couple of other things that I want to show you as well over here on the left-hand side as I'm waiting for my signature to come in. We have a package library in this area, and if you click on more groups, you'll be able to see the Remax Around Atlanta packages. And if you click on it, you can select the buyer brokerage package. And you can add all of these items at the same time to your file using the add a form. So if I'm in my transaction, and I'm going to go over to a new transaction, Mr. Testerson, and I'm going to go to add a form. I'm going to click on packages. And the Remax Around Atlanta Realty form box is going to come up, and you can click on that. And then it's going to drop those packages down. You could add an entire package right to your transaction at once. When you select the box next to the package, it's going to automatically select everything in there. If there's something that's a duplicate or that you already have, for example, if you already have the buyer recommendation language contained inside of your buyer brokerage agreement and you don't want to necessarily add that twice, you could deselect any of these things. Let's say you've already had this client as a seller and now they're a buyer, and you already have one of these that they've already signed. You could always deselect something and then only add what was pertinent to your file now. Same with the seller package. When I select seller package, let's see, let me scroll down a little bit. It's thinking. There we go. My seller package is selected, and I'm just going to scroll down within this window, and you can see there are quite a few different documents that are contained within. And there may be some things that are not applicable. For instance, the DeKalb County plumbing disclosure. Maybe it's not in DeKalb, so you can deselect that and then only add the items to your transaction that you're looking for. And I've added 16 forms to this transaction. So I just want to take a moment, and I'm going to stop sharing the screen for just a second. And I'm going to open it up to any questions just to see if there's anything that anyone has some specific requests on. Let's see. And you can unmute yourselves at this point, I believe.
Alexis,
yes,
it's Vita. I'm not sure if you're going to get to this or not, but if we have somebody asked a question, if somebody does a seller disclosure statement and we upload it and we can make it public, that's one thing. But like, say for instance, we need 2 different people to sign a document. Does it come back to us fully executed like before? And will it attach itself into the proper transaction, or is that something we have to do?
That is something that you're going to, I believe, have to, I think an agent on the other side can access the the document, set it up for signatures in their own Remine, and then send it back to you that way.
Okay, but let's say it's a purchase and sale agreement,
Okay.
and my sellers have signed it and it's going to them, or my buyers have signed it and it's going to the seller for acceptance, and they sign it. The old way used to say your thing is fully executed and it'll be back in that transaction. I would know that it has come back fully signed. How do we get that information now?
You, I believe, get a notification back that that is signed back in your transaction, and then you'll be able to go right into your transaction and access it.
Okay.
Okay. Do I have any other specific questions before I keep going?
Oh, no, you can't leave. We have 8 minutes left.
Okay. Let's see here. Okay. Let's go back, and I want to show you a couple of additional things, and then I will give another opportunity to ask any questions. I'm going to be doing some additional videos as well. As people come to me with questions and they ask me how to do things and how do I get this set up and what happens if I'm a part of a team, as I find these answers out and get some answers from Remine, I'm going to be doing some short little like 2 and 3 minute videos just to walk you through some specific things to let you know exactly what you need to be doing. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to mute everyone again. Okay. I want to call your attention to the clause library as well. And this is pretty cool. There are clauses inside of this library that you can use that are the Georgia Association of Realtors clauses. They're already all contained. So for instance, let's say you wanted to add this clause content. You can add these clauses in to the forms that you've already put in your transaction. So let's, for instance, even go back into John Testerson, and let's go back into his buyer brokerage agreement. And I'm going to navigate, let's see. Oh, I put in an RE form for him. Let's find something that is, let's go to the, let's see, let's find a good one. Let's even go to, let's add a new purchase and sale. That's what we'll do. Also too, as you're going along, because they are just beginning to roll out the software, you will come across some little bugs. And I have found that if I contact, excuse me, I hit the wrong button here. I want to add that in. If I contact Remine, they're usually pretty quick to get back in touch with me within a couple of hours. If they're busy, it might be a full business day, but usually they can get back in touch within an hour. And so they've helped me a lot, just, you know, sort of figuring out little questions that may not necessarily be intuitive. So I'm going to go into this purchase and sale. And you can scroll all the way down into your disclosure area. As soon as you click into that special stipulations area, you can add clauses that are already created in the clause library, or you can create a clause that create one new. Let's experiment with these add clauses so we can see what we have available to us. So when you go to add a clause, it's going to open up this menu and you're going to be able to select where you want to pull your clause or stipulation from. Georgia Association of Realtors, of course, is going to call them stipulations. A lot of other places around the country, like in Florida, they're going to call them clauses. We have some specific clauses now these days for COVID that are in here. This is your clause library, and you can browse to what it is that you're looking for and add it right in. So let's say, for instance, that you know you're going to include something in here regarding the earnest money. You can go to the earnest money section. You can utilize the search if you know that there are certain words, certain keywords that are available in the clause that you want to use, or you can even just roll down and you have the opportunity to preview it before you just go ahead and add it to your contract. I have a question in the chat. Let's see. Are we able to create or save a doc that we use all the time in our package library? If I use a specific seller's net sheet for each seller and I don't want to recreate each time? Yes. As a matter of fact, you can actually, let's say you have a form that you use all the time and you want to have it vectorized so that it has blanks that are going to be fillable every time you add it in. You can send those to Remine, and I'm going to be, you can actually send them to Remine so that they will actually do that on your behalf, do the vectorization and load them in on the back end. And there is a link that I'm going to send out and share with everyone that they're going to be able to utilize to do that. So again, let's say that we're going to utilize this. We can preview it. We can read it. We can make sure that this is what it is that we want to use. Click on Add Clause. Click on Done. You can add multiples at the same time if you know that there are a couple that you're going to be using. And then this is going to be a little tiny editable text screen. You're just going to click on that little pencil to edit it, and you can type the date right into the blank. All of these characters are delete, which is nice as well. There's multiple dates, or let's say that the negotiation is that it's going to be 10 business days for whatever reason. You can modify these, and then once you're done, you're just going to hit the check mark to save it, and it's going to go right into your form. And when you send this out, your clients are not going to see this little text box, and the other people on the other side, they're not going to see that necessarily. So again, this is just sort of a basic snapshot of how to get in, how to get started, how to add forms in. There are a lot of other complex functions, and we're going to be doing additional classes as we go along. Is there anything else that any of you have questions about that you want to cover before we dismiss for the day? And I'm going to go back and I'm going to actually unmute you all. So if you want to speak up, please feel free to do that. And you can unmute yourself at this point. Oh, I've got another question. I think it looks like here in the chat. Thank you. Christina says this is great. Thanks for the training. And I am also glad to be in touch with you personally if you have personal questions. If I do not know the answer, I will always make sure that I go straight to Remine and find the answers for you and either do it on your behalf, figure it out. And myself and Sandy, we're going to be available for any kind of, additional training that you need. The video is actually going to be posted on my technology support YouTube, and I will share a link on the closed Facebook page. I'll also be including that probably in the upcoming weekly action plan and some of our other newsletters that we send out weekly.
Alexis, I do have another quick question.
Okay.
So I have a transaction that it's a listing. So of course I started it in rDocs.
Right.
But I'm not going to be able to do anything additional with it. I guess any new additional forms or anything like that now. So should I also create another tile or create a transaction in Remine, or how do I work that particular one that's crossed over?
That is a very interesting question. So you are not able to create any new tiles in rDocs at this point, but I believe that you can still edit tiles that are already existing inside of rDocs until December 31st.
I think that's right, yeah.
Okay.
For now, you might even want to go in there as of today and be able to add additional documents, send it out for signatures, manipulate information. If you are able to do that, I would say just continue to use your rDoc tile and then not create any more. If you find that you're having problems or some of the functionality is not there, then you may want to even just offload any completed documents, anything that's binding, and then upload it into a Remine file just so that you have it. You might still want to do that because I think at a certain point, you're not going to be able to access those tiles. And so especially if this is a fairly recent transaction and you just kind of want to park your binded contract into Remine for future reference, it's probably not a bad idea.
Perfect, thank you.
Any other questions, either live on audio or in the chat box?
Yeah, Alexis, actually, I'm just trying to find, once we sign, the document, how could we send that as a PDF file in attachment?
How do you send it as a PDF file in an attachment? Okay.
So the receiving person can just open that as a PDF.
Okay, no problem. So what you can do is, let's say, for instance, that you had.
Sorry to interrupt, but accept downloading or saving on your PC.
Aside from downloading or saving on your PC, okay.
Because we have to send a lot of files. If we just keep saving on your PC, it's hard to find sometime. And a lot of space.
Sure, I do understand. So when you're on your main document screen, let's just select a document and we're going to work with it and we're going to send it off as a PDF through here and see if we can do that. So I'm going to open up this purchase and sale and I'm going to convert it to a PDF. When I convert it, of course, it opens up the markup screen where I'm able to use markups. And then I'm going to see if when I send this document, if it gives me the option. It may give you the option to either send it as a link or to send it. And if Sandy, if you have any recommendations for Hafiz about sending this as a PDF straight from Remine and not having to download it first, I'm happy to hear them.
It's currently not an option.
It's currently not an option. So in order to send it as a PDF, the agents will have to download them, attach them to an email, and then send them off.
Yeah, they'll either have to do that, or once it's came back in, like if you were to click on one of your documents that has a review status. So typically what happens is once you send it off for signature, you'll see a sent status. When it comes back in from whoever you sent it out for signature, it's going to come back with a review status. That means it's back in your hands to review, that the appropriate parties have signed. It has my understanding that if you have put in the other party's email addresses, so if you're on the listing side, then if you've put the buyer's agent's name in, then from there you could select your reviewed document, send it then for signature to your buyer's agent, and then she's going to get it on her end as a PDF. I haven't actually seen that yet to know if it fully works, but that is my understanding of how it would work.
So I think, Hafiz, for now, just to be on the safe, especially if you're not intending for this to go to the other agent, but you want to try to send this off to a client, or maybe you want to try to send the contract to a lender and you need to have it just as a PDF, you can turn it into a PDF. You can utilize this download function on the main screen.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to go back here to the main screen, and you'll notice that once I've selected a document, I get some additional options that pop through, and one of them over here says download, and that's going to download that as a PDF, and then you can just attach that and send it. What you might even want to do would be to routinely go through and delete those things off of your download, so that way they don't start to clog up your inbox and clog up your desktop. I've got one additional question, it looks like.
I have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
how do you assign a signature location? I'm playing around with a lead-based paint exhibit.
Okay.
It has all the correct signing locations, except on this one does not have a buyer signature.
Okay.
So I'm just filling out the document. Can you add a signing location once you go to send it?
Yes, you can.
Okay.
And I think, again, Sandy, back me up on this if you want to jump in. If you if you want, it's already been signed, I think you can add another signing place prior to converting that to a PDF.
It hasn't been signed yet. I'm just going through and doing like a mock contract. And when I do the lead-based paint exhibit, just to check the boxes, there's no buyer signature on the buyer signature line. I haven't sent it yet for signatures. I just was kind of doing a mock contract along with what you're doing and see that there's no signature on that line.
Okay,
I can take this if you want me to, Alexis.
go ahead.
So Susan, if you, let's say if you're looking at the LBP and you're representing the seller, you're only going to be able to put in signature spots for the seller. Then once your seller has signed and it has came back, then you can send it over to whoever you might be working with on the buying side, and then they would have the ability to add in the signature features.
Right. So
The only way you would be able to add in signature fields for all parties is if you had everybody's contact names and email addresses.
So I just converted this to a PDF, and then it opens up this suite of tools at the top, and one of them is the add signature function. So you could then, if you wanted to, add a person and use this. Once it's a PDF, like let's say everyone else has signed, right? And then you want to have one additional signature, or maybe there's multiple, maybe you have a situation where you have 3 buyers for some reason. You could add another signature and click on this add person, and then it's going to say, are you sure you want to do that? And you're going to say, yes, I'm sure. Part of the smart forms functionality is it's going to kind of double check you at every turn. So when you're using this adding elements markup, you're going to get an are you sure box that's going to pop up. And it says adding elements to smart forms such as text boxes, initial tags by the markup tool will disable the smart form functionality and convert it to a simple PDF. So features like alerts and linking will not work on the PDFs once it's been converted. And then you can also, if you ever get this screen when it pops up, you can watch the video of what that means. If you convert it to a basic PDF and then add that extra signature, you're still going to be able to have it in here, but it's just not going to be one of your smart forms. Converting it to a PDF essentially flattens the information. Am I right on that, Sandy? Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Have you experienced that, sending things back and forth?
Again, I haven't seen it coming back because typically, you know, the other party's not going to want to give you their client's legal name and their email addresses. So it's going to.
And if you have a situation where you're on both sides, then you can select that. No, actually, I think you make, do you make 2 transactions, or do you select buyer side and seller side?
Buyer side and seller side. So if you're representing both sides, then it's easy, and yeah, you can drop and play everything in there.
You have carte blanche. You'll have access to all of those signatures. But I think the idea is that like you can really only you only have signatures preloaded and available for whoever it is that you're representing on that side. And it's going to be, you know, however many buyers you've set up at the beginning, that's however many are going to show up.
Correct.
Good question. Any others before we dismiss? I really appreciate you. Go ahead.
Yeah, the office disclosure, like a wiring and other, does it have as a form format, or is a document format? So we have to create the signatures when we are sending with the like a purchase and sale agreement, anything, you know, like that.
Very good question. Sandy and I actually just talked about this morning as well. We have the ability to send these forms that we have that are in-house RMAA forms. We've sent them over to Remine at this point, and it's not something that's going to happen instantly, but they are going to vectorize those and make it so that right now they're in the forms library, but you have to drag and drop the elements to put information on there. But what would you think? Within the next maybe week or so, you should be able to just add those as forms, and they'll be uniquely fillable every single time. There was a class yesterday that they did for brokers and staff, and they shared a link with us so that we could load our own documents to them and that they would go ahead and take the care of that on the back end. So that should be coming, I'm thinking, in about, I mean, fewer than, I know, right? Fingers crossed, fewer than 7 days. That's my hope.
And then we would have a ability to fill up there to like a, you know, contract processing form, you know, so we can fill up like rDocs we've been filling up.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, and so far within these 7 days, because I didn't try that, if we have to send some form for the signature, can we add that PDF file with the same file, you know, so we can create in the same like in rDocs, you know, they give you opportunity if there is PDF document in there, not a PDF document, but you know, does not have a signature place, so we can.
Right. Okay. So let's go through that real quick if you have a second, and anyone who wants to remain on certainly can follow along with this. I'm going to go back into one of the transactions that we were just in, and let's even just experiment with adding in just one of the RMAA forms as it is currently. Again, we're hoping that within the next week, you should be able to just add these things as a form. But let's say you have a builder contract, okay? A builder contract that they're going to send over to you as a PDF, or maybe they're even going to give you the paper version if you're working on.
No, sorry. My question is that not with all PDF documents. I'm talking about like a purchase and sale agreement. It's in a form, you know, when we are creating an offer, we are sending to our client to sign it, right?
Okay.
The purchase and sale agreement is in a form, right?
Right.
In a form format, but we have a wiring instructions, you know, that is in a PDF format.
Right.
We can add both in the same time to sending to our client for the signature, right?
Yes, yes, you can.
And so when we are sending it, we can create a signature for our client on the wiring instructions.
Correct. So let's go through here. I'm going to go into our, let's see here.
So just also, while she's getting there, what she was talking about is we're sending over the forms. So once they load the customized forms that we've requested, which is going to be like the UCPF, the wiring instructions, the affiliated business disclosure, it would be in that forms tab as a drop down, but then it's also going to be in your packages. So it would be in 2 spots for you to be able to select those from.
Yeah. I was just asking for just in the 7 days, like what she was.
Right. Well, hopefully it'll be quicker than that. That's my estimation.
It would be quicker than that, but I'm just saying because I'm sending a the listing of Remine shortly, so that's why I'm asking, you know.
Okay. So let's go back into my packages, and I'm going to go back into Remax around Atlanta, and we've already loaded some of these things into the back end. I'm only going to add in what I need. I'm going to open up the entire thing, but I'm only going to add, for instance, the what? The wiring fraud. Okay,
yes,
perfect.
That's what he was asking about.
That's what he was asking about specifically. So let's get rid of everything else. I have to move my film strip again. I've been moving you guys all over the page, all class long. And you'll see that it appears here. And then I'm going to scroll down and click on next. And now I've added that in. Here's our wiring fraud. Okay, so you'll notice the difference between something that has been added that is a form that's fillable and something that is a PDF. The wiring fraud shows here to the left, you'll see the little icon says PDF. When you click on that, It's automatically going to open up with your suite of tools at the top that allows you to make your own corrections and to drop your own signatures. So what you can do is, so let's say we want to get this signed, right?
Yeah, sorry, let me just save your time.
Okay.
For individual form to create a signature, I know that. But I was just asking, let's see if I'm going to send it with the purchase and sale agreement. And if I, let's see if I click that, you know, I fill it, I already filled up the
Right.
purchase and sale agreement. I'm going to click those two forms to send that purchase and sale agreement and the wiring instructions.
Yep.
So at that time, when I'm going to send it to, you know, then I can create the signature at that time or not?
You have to create it prior to sending it. So what I
Separately.
would do is I would open up the PDF form and I would put the information onto the form first
Okay.
and put your place where you want him to sign and just drop that on there. Click the finish button and then select the two forms that you want him to sign at the same time, and you could send them for signature as a group.
I got it.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Okay.
But yes.
So we have to create that first separately.
Correct.
Any PDF
For
file.
now. Yes.
Yeah.
For
Yeah.
now.
No.
Right. And
I think.
but again, for anything that you upload yourself, like let's say you pull off a seller's disclosure that is just uploaded from another agent off of FMLS, and you load it in and it's a PDF at that point, and then maybe it's for whatever reason an agent that's not utilizing the Remine program, or if it's just an uploaded photocopied version for whatever reason, you can put it into this program. It will be a PDF. If it's not a PDF, you can convert it to PDF for whatever reason, and then you can drop the signature on it, and then you will be able to send them at the same time when you do your signature request.
Okay. Yes. That is fine.
Okay.
Great.
All right, great.
And just little question for the, you know, the NART number. Let's see, you know, currently is expiring. Mine is expiring on December 31st. So when we have to put that, we have to put that again, I believe, right?
What was the
Because
question?
you know, the NART number
Yes.
in the beginning, because it's showing it's expiring on December 31st. So do we have to put that again? Because you know what I'm talking about? You know, and initially
The
when
NRDS number?
we are going to access to the forms, you know, we have
Right.
to put NART number, right?
Right. You put your NERDS
National
number
Association.
in.
Yeah.
Yeah, good question. The NERDS number associates you with the use of the GAR forms, and that's going to carry over from 2020 to 2021 to 2022. As Remine is going to take care of putting in the new forms at December 31st at the switch up. As soon as those forms are available, they'll probably be even in there prior to 2021. Your number gives you access. So you will not have to go back into the settings screen and put your number in again. Once it's in, it's in. That's a good question.
Okay, so we don't have to put that. Okay.
No, you won't have to go back and put it in again. Yeah.
Okay.
As long as you continue this same membership login with FMLS, which then translates to your Remine, and your NRDS number will not change, it's in and you're set up. The new forms will come in as new other forms that RMAA adds may come in as well. You do not have to re-verify.
Okay. All right. Great. Thank you so much for your time and help.
You're welcome. I appreciate you all very much. Thanks for being with me today. If you have any specific questions, please feel free to email me. You can also email Sandy Ziegler. She's an excellent resource. She's utilized Remine a lot. She's obviously utilizing it with our contract to close department. And so she's definitely an expert and has a lot of hands-on user experience using it. And we're going to be hoping to do an additional course where the two of us come up with some curriculum and maybe co-teach that. Here, I'm hoping within the next maybe month, sometime in November.
Yeah. keep doing.
Sandy for a nod.
Yes, I think it would be great once we have all of our customized forms and maybe some of our customized packages that we're talking about. So once we have all of those ready, then yeah, that would be a great time to have another class. So
Yeah.
Yeah, there was one thing also too that they touched on in the broker class that I thought was pretty cool, of how you can find your property on the map on the initial Remine screen and create your listing transaction from there and pull all that information in. And I know that there is some CRM function on here if people want to kind of migrate all of their information into Remine. So there's a whole suite of tools that we haven't even touched on. This is basically just going to get you started to write contracts and experiment with utilizing forms.
Okay. Yeah, that's good. We'll wait for that.
Okay.
And
All right,
thank you for your 3 or 4 reminders for this class. You know,
It's always my pleasure.
and the link. You know, Sunday was very easy to get in there.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Okay, well, thanks so much, and I appreciate you all, and I hope to see you soon. Thanks again.
Thank you all.